In 1 month, assault weapons could be back on Illinois gun store shelves after a federal judge rules the state's ban goes against the Second Amendment. A judge in downstate Illinois strikes down the ban in place since January of 2023. WIFR's Nathaniel Langley meets one firearms store owner who says the decision comes just in time for his business.
People in this great state have a Second Amendment right.
Illinois' assault weapons ban hasn't just hurt business for Smoke and Gun Works in Forreston. The business says it created headaches with its registration process.
A huge violation of personal rights, and it really kind of backfired on the state as well.
On Friday, a Southern Illinois judge overturned the state law, citing a need for self-defense. One Democratic lawmaker calls it a case of activism by a judge.
Yeah, these are rights, but very, very strict interpretations of saying the right has to be, there's no restrictions. That's just not the way the world is, not the way the law is.
The state enforces layers of background checks at state and federal levels. Reuter believes they work better than any ban.
It's another layer of protecting our citizens in the state of Illinois. It's quite effective.
The firearms store owner wouldn't be surprised if Friday's ruling is the first breeze in a wind of change coming to gun policy.
I really do see it as coming back to the true interpretation and the true protection of our rights.
As Republicans win power in Washington, Rep. Vela expects more fights between federal and Illinois law.
We have kind of put up our borders, our walls around Illinois, because we're surrounded by red states. So I think we're going to be okay.
In the Stateline, Nathaniel Langley, WIFR News.
Judge Stephen McGlynn issued a 30-day stay on the ban. Governor J.B. Pritzker plans to appeal the decision as soon as possible.